beautiful, you know that?
Sorry, no, I thought it was gonna be like romantic.
Better late than never, I guess.
You have a nice day, ma'am.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Kris Vents. I'm your host, back with Dom, the disembodied Discord voice. Dom, I believe I just found a movie worse than Wired, which I didn't think was even possible. And Shane Dawson's one and only stab at the movie director's seat with Not Cool.
It was... I'm just going to say with a title like that, I think he realized as soon as he started how it was going to end, and he wanted to make the jokes about it easier. So, before we go into anything else, let's just say he is being a good sport.
At least he acknowledges the movie sucks.
Yes.
Which, I wish he had realized that while he was making the fucking thing. So I only found out about this movie a couple years ago, after I started watching I Hate Everything. I was going through a playlist of his search for the worst movies, and this was on there. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to store this in my memory banks, because this might be something truly special to rip into. And then I watched it, and I would rather staple anchovies to my dick and jump into a pond filled with starving barracudas than ever attempt that again. I say this is worse than Wired because Wired had one thing going for it, and that was Michael Chiklis as John Belushi, which isn't much consolation, considering it took a comedic legend and dug up his desiccated corpse and shit all over it.
And this is worse than that.
Somehow this is more... this is in terms of tastelessness and in terms of competence. Because, I mean, it's Shane Dawson's first time as an actual movie director. And of course, he's, I guess, a big name on YouTube. I've never watched any of his stuff. I've never even stumbled across any of his stuff accidentally. And just the few clips of his videos I have seen make me want to prescribe Ritalin to a slug.
Yeah, just looking at pictures of him, I get a bad feeling, so I can't even imagine what looking at him for 90 minutes straight, hearing him talk and seeing him in motion would do.
A friend of mine described him as Onision Light, which should really tell you something.
I'm going to have to tell you about Onision Heavy after all this.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Do we want that in the episode or not?
Well, it's not related to the film, so I guess not.
Sorry, viewers. That's going to be a private conversation for us. And there are certain things that are going to crop up when you're a first-time director. You know, you're not always going to just be Tarantino and nail it right out of the gate. Which even Tarantino didn't nail it right out of the gate, because Reservoir Dogs wasn't the first movie he tried to make, but that's a different story.
George Lucas, maybe? I know before Star Wars he had some well-received pieces of work.
Maybe. Most directors, I think, have a warm-up period, but Shane Dawson never tried anything beyond this. So I figured this might be a good movie to talk about, with it taking place on Thanksgiving weekend, and we're a week away from Thanksgiving weekend. This is hardly even a Thanksgiving movie. It's like this weird... It's like it can't settle on what type of movie it wants to be. It's like this John Hughes coming-of-age comedy drama mixed with some like really raunchy, like The Hangover type of comedy. So it can't figure out which one it wants to be, so it tries to do both, and just fails miserably on both accounts.
In my experience and opinion, most YouTube-made movies are simply vehicles to insert jokes rather than be, coherent plots with some humor attached. And I'm going to assume that's the case here.
That's very much. The only 2 times I've ever seen YouTubers make semi-decent movies was, even though I'm not a big fan of him anymore, the AVGN movie I thought worked for what it was trying to go for, and Brad Jones's movies, or at least any movie Brad Jones does where it's directed by Ryan Mitchell. Those movies work. They're not the best high-quality movies, but they do what they're supposed to. This is a mix of, like, really, really bad, like, edgelord humor. There's there's an overabundance of sex jokes, which is just great when you have less than 0 interest in that kind of thing at all, unless it actually really works.
What's the plot, or what is excused as the plot?
I was about to say, yeah, what fucking plot? Because this movie is about 2 people. You've got this girl named Tori, who is a college kid, who is like the Ellen Page's character from Juno, or I'm sorry, Elliot Page's character from Juno, where she's like the really sharp-witted, doesn't really like a whole lot of people. I think that's what her character was in Juno. I barely remember that fucking movie. And then you have Scott, who is Shane Dawson's character, also a college guy. These two used to go to school together, and it's kind of the guy trying to get. It's kind of the Shane Dawson has just been broken up. His girlfriend, who is a real grade A whore, just broke up with him, which I love the fact that she breaks up with him immediately after blowing him through a glory hole in an airport restroom.
Oh boy, that sounds like one of those things that is taken to be humorous, even though there's not really any sort of joke there.
Yeah, it's supposed to be funny, and it's supposed to be ironic, but it isn't. It's just like there's a lot of scenes in this movie where you could pretty much just summarize them with, well, that happened. And so Shane Dawson is kind of, well, he doesn't run into Tori so much as she accidentally hits him with her truck.
Good. Is that the one good part of the film?
I wish. She was on her way home from a house party, which this movie loves house parties, after she had been barfed on, which she gets barfed on twice in this movie. The first time, about 97 seconds into the movie, she gets barfed on. And then she got barfed on at this other party, so she's just fucking off back home and accidentally hits Shane Dawson. And then it sort of turns into this, like, it's supposed to be like she's this person who doesn't like people and, like, not be as snarky and be more accepting of other people. And then Shane Dawson's character, who's kind of a narcissist and he's, like, so wrapped up in himself, and he's got to be learned to be less of a narcissist. But it's like these two butting heads trying to develop a relationship, and it feels disingenuous. I don't feel any chemistry between the two. I'm just like, they're only together doing these things because the plot calls for it.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, there's this secondary plot about Scott's sister Janie and this other guy named Joel, who I can't tell if he's supposed to be a closeted homosexual.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Or if he's just socially inept or what, but he has the hots for her in, like, a creepy stalker kind of way. And he really wants to get laid.
I Okay, all right. So this is sounding like some sort of Disney movie, but the rating notched up a couple spaces.
It's like it's like a 14-year-old just watched South Park and then was given the task of writing a Hallmark movie.
That is a good way of putting it.
The acting is Hallmark movie quality, frankly.
I was just about to get to that. So I was going to say, how's the acting?
I mean, it's barely even Hallmark movie quality. There's a lot of overacting in this movie. Like, you'll have characters just randomly just blurt things out that just force you to do a double take. There's a lot of characters that will shout for no reason at all. There's this one trio of characters that all they do is scream and curse endlessly. That's their entire character. They're supposed to be like the queen bitches of the local high school, and that's all they are, is just let's just scream and curse because comedy. And one of them is clearly a man in drag.
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
The acting's bad. The jokes don't exactly land, from what I hear.
No.
There's no plot.
The only scene I sort of kind of enjoyed was there a scene where Shane Dawson gets tased by a mall security guard, and the guard just happens to be Kurt Angle. That's the only thing I thought was funny was, oh hey, Kurt Angle's in this movie.
So there's no other redeeming part of the film.
That one scene got the only genuine laugh out of me. Any other scene that I might have maybe laughed at was born out of a desperate need to laugh. This was a very long and painful 90 minutes.
It doesn't even sound like there's much to it. Like
there really isn't.
There's not. It's not like, I don't know, a Star Wars sequel or film where there's so many things to pick apart. It's just this part is bad, that part is bad, that part is bad.
Yeah, even if you're into this type of movie, it doesn't work because the majority of the first act is just really forced. It just really forced humor that lands absolutely nowhere. Like, there's a recurring gag in the opening act with this random hobo who openly and proudly eats his own shit.
Then
that's the caliber of humor. I think it's a perfect allegory for the humor in this movie is just shit.
Ugh. So it just
yeah. Now you know why it's taken me so long to find a movie to vent about. Because it's like, can this work? Can this work? Can this work? It's like,
no, it's just unpleasant. So it's unpleasant. It's not funny, and apparently Shane Dawson himself repudiated it years later.
Yeah, at least he acknowledges that. At least he acknowledges that he was a dick on set and just wanted to throw in more over the top bullshit just to fuck with people. Like, you know a movie's bad when its own producer has his name taken off of it.
What it says that they spent $800,000 on this. Do you know where that money might have gone besides, I guess, salaries?
The cameras, because they clearly had some decent quality cameras for it.
Oh, there's a redeeming quality to the film.
Yeah, but it doesn't help the fact that there are scenes where the camera where they're clearly using handheld, because you can see the camera sort of slightly shaking, and it's like it might not be that big of a thing for most people, but for me, I'm just looking at it and I'm like, dude, you have $800,000. You can afford a fucking tripod. Just bolt the camera down. Most of the scenes of this movie, they could just bolt the camera down and it would be fine. We talk about the $800,000 budget, and I brought up Brad Jones. It's like, the Cinema Snob movie was shot on $16,000, and it doesn't have that problem.
Well,
and it has characters, and it has jokes that actually land, and it has something that could actually be mistaken for a plot.
is there that much to say then? 0 out of 10.
Negative 50 out of 10.
Negative infinity out of infinity. Don't see the movie, and
Don't.
if you want a bad movie to watch, I recommend the Channel Awesome videos.
You know what? Next time we might have to talk about Kick-Assia.
You know, we really do.
But at the very least, this show might give me an excuse to actually watch To Boldly Flee.
Oh yeah, the one pill I was never able to swallow.
That's gonna be an interesting one to talk about. So, I guess next time we'll talk about Kick-Assia. Next week, my buddy Kason and I are going to be doing a discussion on Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City, and then maybe sometime after that, next weekend, you and I can talk about Kick-Assia.
Alright, sounds good.
So until then, don't buy this movie, don't rent it, don't allow it to enter your thoughts, and fuck this movie.